We're chasing comedy, working on jokes, working on bits, seeing what sticks, seeing what stinks. We're chasing comedy, politics and current events, cultural shifts and psychological bents, the daily news, your grandpa's views, conspiracy theories, trending Google queries. Either way, it's all okay. We're chasing comedy. So listen up and we'll lay it all out, whether you're seeking wisdom or zoning out. Have your fill, it's all just for the mill, with Brian and Dustin, and we're chasing comedy. We're Brian and Dustin, and we're chasing comedy.
We're recording in progress. Fantastic.
You made her a gay man. How'd that happen?
I don't know. Why are we assuming that this voice is necessarily a gay man? It could be a deep voice.
I would love that. I would love a voice like that on a dude that's not gay, and just to cause why? How come that's never happened? I guess Mike Tyson sounded gay, and he was the most anti-gay person.
Every guy did the Mike Tyson impersonation, and they was a very
no. I'm just having a human moment with you. I'm not trying to write a bit. I'm just saying that. But like he's one of the few where it's just like once he spoke, it was just like this. You know,
that's true. That was a very odd dynamic. That voice coming out of that guy was
it freaked us all out because it's almost like they didn't let him speak for like a year of him winning championships and stuff, or winning the belts or whatever. Like it was like, and then it was like, then they kind of rolled him out on a press conference once, and we were like, what?
Yeah, it reminds me of like Christopher Cross. When the Christopher Cross album came out, they didn't put him on the cover because they wanted everyone to think that like he was a blues, like he was like a bluesy black guy because he had this great voice, and they wanted no one to know what he looked like, and he was this tubby white guy. And they put the album out, they marketed it specifically that way. I remember this story. I think it was on the Stern Show, and they talked about that, and then everybody saw him, and it was like, what the hell? And still had the same voice, but those marketing.
That's a great thing, because I feel like, I don't have no idea what Boston looks like. The band. Yeah. Like, I don't know what ELO looks like. I don't know what I barely know what Iron Maiden looks like, just because, it's like there's so many bands. You're just like, it was just the music. And then the cover of whatever, like cool artwork was enough. Pink Floyd, I don't know what they look like.
It was like no idea. Yeah. If you showed me Roger Waters, in a police lineup, I would just go, I don't know.
Yeah, if they were all like in line at Five Guys, I wouldn't know.
No,
I was at a show. I was talking to a guy, and he liked my comedy. We were talking like some other people, and then he left, and they were go, that's the lead singer of Tool. I was like, well, I had no idea.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking to him for like 25 minutes, and then he was like, I'm a musician. I was like, and I was almost like, hey man, it'll work out. Just keep at it,
Oh, that's funny.
It's like,
but that's the thing. To the guy for
But they have, their album covers are like this artwork, so you just don't, they don't do a lot of press. So I don't know.
Right. Nobody knows what's going on.
I like
who's
that.
The singer? Who's the singer like that now? Is it female singer
that you don't
never
know?
See her face?
I don't think there's anybody like that now.
What is it?
Sia.
Yeah, Sia. You never see her. You never see her. Yeah, Sia. You never see Sia. Ironically enough, right? She's shrouded in mystery. She wears like veils and outfits so nobody knows what she looks like, which is really, I love the fact in our celebrity culture nowadays, and this narcissistic, ego-driven, image-based culture where everybody's trying to grab fame, wants to be recognized, wants to be. Sia's like, I don't want anyone. I want to go to Target and have nobody know who the hell I am. Right?
Yeah, that is great. There's another guy. Who's that guy we like? Adam, the country guy, Orville
Peck.
Orville Peck. Like he's a country guy that has like a mask on his face and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, and he's great. He's a wonderful singer, and you just never see his face. And he's just like, it's kind of post goth country stuff. It's pretty cool. But that's great. You know, a comedy's only had one guy that did that, the unknown comic. You know, like that's the only guy that ever did it in comedy was the unknown guy.
What was
and who knows? That could have been like 5 different guys. We don't know.
Of course, we don't know. It could have been, you know, it could have been many guys. And what was his name? Marshall Mathers, Marshall Tucker. What was that guy's name?
Was he Eminem too? What happened?
No, that guy had a real name. Marshall McLuhan. What? I don't know. It has an M in it.
I just remember being.
I'm sending. Once again, I'm putting Adam to work. I love when Adam has that look, that instant look of like,
All right, Adam, you got to bring up the unknown comic and definitely get an image of him.
Murray Langston. Thank you. I didn't even have to get it. Murray Langston. It just came in there. Yeah.
He's still playing bar mitzvahs, but yeah. It was. I remember as a kid, it was so funny to me that somebody would put a paper bag over their head.
Yeah.
And just do stand-up comedy. And it was, it was like Dangerfield type jokes. And it was, it worked in the time of the 80s.
I know. And I remember how funny, I think didn't he do a ventriloquist joke one time where he had a bag on his hand as well? Right. Yes. That was like really funny. There it is. Yes, there it is.
There he is. Oh, he shows his face. Wow. Okay. Put the bag back on.
You know what? I prefer,
I don't want to see that. Like that ruins everything.
I prefer the old version. Yeah, I prefer the old version.
Everything. Like now that I wish I'd never known what he looked like.
No, Murray Langston in this picture looks like everyone I ever gave spare change to on Ventura Boulevard. Like it's just very sad. It's just very whatever.
Yeah, just keep the mystery. It's not like you take. I don't know. Just like when Kiss, took their makeup off, and then everybody was like, "Nah, we don't want that." And they did have a couple of good songs though with the no makeup, but then it was like 2 songs really: "Lick It Up" and "Heaven's on Fire." That's pretty much it.
That's such an interesting. That's such an interesting thing. It's like, oh, you ruined it. You told us who you look like.
Well, they went back to it. They
I know.
Totally went right back to it because there's nothing better. 70-year-old kind of banged up dudes age better with makeup, and so they were like, all right, if we're going to stay on tour for 40 years, we should probably put the makeup back on.
Yeah. And when I was a kid and then people were into Kiss and I saw the whole makeup thing, I was never into that thing. Like I didn't know what was going on. And I thought that was like Josie and the Pussycats or something. Like I thought it was one of those made up bands. I didn't know if they played instruments. I thought it was something from the cartoon era. What were some of those other
superheroes and stuff? And then it was, I was in Texas. And so it became about, the Knights in Satan's service, and it became this attack on them because they were the 4 horsemen and Revelations, and they were ruining our children. And so we were burning Kiss albums in like a church parking lot when I was a child. So it was like, Texans are nuts. And it's like, all that Satanism music, Ozzy, all that was just vampant in Texas as a child. And like, the whole Satan music stuff. And so Kiss was kind of the poster child for that, but they were everywhere. So it's like you couldn't get away from it.
See, that's a forgotten era in censorship and book burning and all that and weird stuff. There's like this. No one remembers the right-wing panic because now censorship is associated more with liberal ideology and something like that. So that's like an interesting, because people always forget the moral panic about right-wing lyrics and Al Gore, Tipper Gore, and the People's Music Resource, whatever, PMRC, whatever that was, with the adults, mothers against gas station attendants killing themselves or whatever that was. Right?
The 80s were terrible. I mean, it was like, I remember Scorsese's Last Temptation of Christ, and it was like, they were going nuts, dude. Just lining up the theaters, like just protesters and like, all this stuff. Yeah, just it was one after another.
I wonder if that movie came out now, would there be this hubbub? Because now right-wing people always accuse left-wingers of being snowflakes and censorship and all this stuff. So if that movie came out now,
if a big director did it, it would. It's like, that's the thing. The reason that got press is because it was Scorsese. Like if Spielberg did something like that, then but I think I think that's what catapulted that, because it was like, there were other movies at the time that were, The Thief that Cooked with Wife and Her Lover and things like that, where it was like weird, crazy movies. But number one, they weren't centered around Christ, and it wasn't like a big director. So it was like, nobody was like flipping out. So I feel there was like an English director. Forget his name. He was great. Peter Greenway did Thief and the Cook and all that stuff. So it's like nobody was, but it was like Scorsese. It was like, it's like a big.
Well, speaking of censorship,
here's a good. Look at you.
We segue.
Look at you figuring out podcasting. I like it. I knew you'd get it. I knew you'd get it.
You see what I did there? Are we going to wade in on the?
Please lead. I'm excited about this. Yeah.
The latest issues in outrage, moral panic, etc. The Kill Tony guys. Should we chat?
Sure. We can say names. Okay. Yeah, I don't care. Help us get more hits.
It's such a. This is such a fascinating thing. It's such a fascinating thing because, as everyone knows, I mean, I don't even know how to like gingerly
frame it, explain it. People may not know.
Tony Hinchcliffe, who hosts Kill Tony podcast, the Kill Tony show out in Los Angeles, which basically. Roast comics. He's a roast comic. He did these hilarious jokes at the Tom Brady roast, killer like jokes. He's really good at that kind of thing, and just killer. Killer's really funny. If you watch the clips, it's really, really funny. And then he gets invited to the Maca rally in New York City. Okay, and I don't know who does the casting, and who does the that'll be a good idea right there. And I know they're going after the young guy, Joe Rogan, podcasting, Theo Vaughn. They did another one with it, and then that they're really pushing hard into that. So somebody in MAGA world said, let's get Tony Hinchcliffe on the thing, and then he went up and did a set which was causing no small amount of controversy, to put it mildly. And what's fascinating is it didn't. When I watched that, I go, well, that's what the guy does. So that's sort of on the campaign. They brought the guy in to do what he does. So it's really, really on the campaign. Some people are attacking him. A lot of people are attacking him. So, oh, this is horrible. Obviously, as a proxy for Trump, and saying that they hired this guy, which is a dumb. I don't know who who said let's get that guy. That'll get us more. That'll really win over undecided voters, that'll really.
I think you said it best. It was like trying to get that hip young podcast male, and that's and that's exactly what they were trying to do. I was more offended.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's okay. I was more offended by Hulk Hogan not being able to rip his shirt in half. I thought that was that was more insulting to me than Tony Hinchcliffe's jokes.
Wait, I missed that. I missed that. Did that happen?
Oh, he can't. He was like trying to. It was like, it took. Did you see it, Adam? It took him like 3 minutes to rip his shirt off.
Right. That's very painful. That's because that's the demographic of macho masculinity is what they're going for, and then they can't rip through polyester. That's pretty sad. So now people are saying this, and what I think is interesting is everyone's doing that thing where they go, if you don't like the jokes, then turn it up. But that's not even the point. It's like obviously as comedians we just go, all right, the guy's a comic, but booking him on that show is on that lineup. It was not ideal for the campaign. And if I was a Trump supporter, I'd be like, if I was on that, one of those people that is ardently Trump supporting, I would think that they would be angry about anything that was done that would harm the long-term goals of the electoral goals that they have. That to me is the only thing that you should be focused on. Instead of go, he should be allowed to say whatever he wants. Well, of course he should be.
I think it was a good idea. I think it was just it was the wrong set list and the wrong approach. If he got up there and roasted Kamala in a way that sounded like a roast, then I think it would have been amazing. It's just that he was, roasting like demographic they're trying to get. And
it's like,
really, and now it's like, it's this, now all the, Puerto Rican celebrities are going crazy. And so it just, what the funniest thing I read was something like, who would have thought a hack comic would end up changing history, or something like, basically just destroying the whole thing that they're trying to do. But I understand why they booked him. And I think if it had gone well, it would have been a sensation. It would have been a viral, it would have been a viral clip that would just go over and over, and people would just be more drawn to it, like the way they're drawn to his podcast already. So I think they want that fan base.
Right. But what I think would have been even cooler is if he went after Trump's kids and Trump himself did a couple of even minor jokes.
He's not
even
do
something
that.
But you're at a roast. You're hiring a roast guy. That side is always saying, "Oh, you guys are snowflakes. You can't take a joke. Look at us." Trump has been roasted on those things. He did get roasted. So if he had come out and slammed some of the people who were on the stage and some of the people that were in the audience, or Trump himself or Trump's kids, just with a couple of one-liners, that would have insulated the whole thing, because people would have said, "Hey, he also did that." At least that would have given them something, and it would have been a solid kind of thing to say. The other side is so is just such snowflakes. They can't even. We ripped Trump. I ripped Trump. I did this. What's wrong with you guys? I ripped everybody. Because they keep saying he ripped everybody.
I think so. But I think Trump also, he got more sensitive, once he became a politician, and I'm sure he had to sign something that he couldn't go after.
That?
I don't think the Comedy Central roast was. It was The Apprentice. He was on The Apprentice.
You mean sensitive, like he's personally sensitive?
Yeah, and then
I thought you meant sensitive to other people.
Yeah, no. He got like insecure and couldn't take it and whatever. I don't know. It's kind of it's just an interesting thing. But I think then as someone, I feel I would even call myself a self-appointed OG racist, motivated comedian, in the sense of I have dealt with a lot of material. I've been booed by 3,000 black people. I've gone through the trenches. Lisa Lampanelli reached out to me to buy a lot of my material. Like I was a guy that was kind of doing Puerto Rican jokes, doing black jokes, doing Asian jokes.
I didn't know the Lisa Lampanelli thing.
Yeah, I mean, she wanted to buy a lot of jokes. I turned her down and ended up doing the joke on Showtime. But it's like when I got booed, it's like this one joke that I did. I went on Showtime and it did well. And I think we talked about it before. But it's like I feel like I understand the crafting of a joke that's racially, motivated, or something that describes a stereotype about somebody or something. And I think it's like he's not as skilled enough craftsman to pull it off. Bottom line, being anybody can be like edgy at a roast. And I'm not saying that he wasn't good on the Tom Brady thing. I don't think he held a candle to Nikki Glaser, but I think he's definitely in that environment. It works because you can't say anything. You can't talk about the lesbian and make fun of her being black and whatever. And you can't make fun of the Jewish guy. And you can't, this is not that moment. But I think he could have done it in another way. But I think he thinks he's a comedian, and I don't think he's a comic. I think his whole success is off of open mic comics being judged by celebrity comedians, and that's a podcast he created, and it's genius, and it sells out Madison Square Garden. Right. And he's making millions off of it. And so who am I? We have 8 followers. And so,
okay. So here's the thing. You mentioned the word, what did you say? You said something about hack comedy or something before. And
he's very hacky. People shouldn't be doing race jokes like that in 2024. That is so. Okay. And Lampanelli's like the queen, and I feel like she's the last one that kind of did it. She did it on HBO. She like made a whole career around it, and then she quit, and the whole thing kind of was dismantled. I mean, there's guys running around like Gino Visconti, and there's like the, that network thing that's happening over there, the Kumia channel and Aaron Berg. There's guys that are trying to keep it alive, but I think it's dead. I think it's done.
Well, okay, but to the point you're raising, which is interesting to me, like the whole, because and we grew up in an era when the word the worst thing you could be was a hack comic. Yeah, like meaning there would be whispers in the back of the room at comedy clubs when a hack would be doing something that is known as hack. Okay. I mean, and I'm not talking about racial stuff. Let's put that over here. I'm talking about that. Yes, cheap jokes, but Gilligan's Island jokes or Gilligan's Island references that everybody had done a million times. Hey, why can't if the professor can make a computer out of coconuts, why can't he fix the hole in the boat? You know, like every comedian, and that was considered hack. Douche commercials. A lot of farting jokes would be, oh God, you'd be in the back. You know, there's a comedian who's a closer is taking a shit. You know, like you'd be in the back going, oh my God. I remember working with Seinfeld someplace, and there was an opener who was doing like just like a 3-minute farting chunk, and Seinfeld was like, okay, this is really great, isn't it? Right? Like they kept watching just horror, just artistic horror. Okay, and that existed. That concept of self-censorship in the comedy world, it wasn't censoring the comedians, but there was a sense of like, okay, that's hack, that's lame. If you were a prop act, you got a lot of crap, right? Remember, unless you were the Wid, who always got that carve out exception because everyone thought he was funny. Carrot Top got a lot of grief. Guitar acts would get some grief for cheap parodies unless they were like creatively funny, and every ventriloquist except Otto used to get grief from be called hacky or whatever. So that's really an interesting thing. The hack premise, the whole idea of hack.
You brought up Seinfeld. It's like a lot of people think he was hacky because he was doing kind of recycled George Carlin stuff, and it was very easy, approachable things that a lot of comedians were doing at the time. The little hangers in the thing, what's the deal with the airplane food? I feel like it's like a lot of that stuff, and he's a brilliant, great comic, but everybody's gonna, the back of the room will always find a way to take down everybody. And
right, but okay, so my question to that is, I don't remember Seinfeld being portrayed as a hack until later when his material was actually copied and his style was actually copied by many other people, and then it's sort of backwards engineered that like he's hack, and it's like, no, he's not. Like he was one of the best craftsman of that.
I agree. I agree. I think he was great. I think, I remember somebody telling me that he was more Carlin or something than I realized. And I think I tried to take the study of kind of what Carlin was doing. And I did see the comparisons, and I don't think he's a hack at all. I think Seinfeld's a better comedian now today than he was 20 years ago. Like I saw him recently, and it was the best 20 minutes I've seen, and it was just like phenomenal, and it was very personal. And it was great, and it was a different style. It was a totally different. Like he's changed his rhythm. Like it's very passionate.
Yes. It's like and his stuff was that style. Some of those things, like people made fun of him. Dice made fun of him. I don't talk about socks in the dryer like some people, but the socks in the dryer thing, that was his. He was the first guy to do that, and now then
people say Dice took Otto and George's act, with the nursery rhymes and all that stuff, and so it's always this continuous cycle of like one person calls one a hack, the other one says the other one's a hack. Like it's it's really the bottom line. But this is to me, this whole thing about the controversy of racial material is, I feel it's kind of, there's not much left. It's like I did a joke. I did a joke on Showtime about Puerto Rican, but it's like I did the joke, and then it was just like, but that was like, 2006 or whatever. And just the idea of, and it basically was the same joke he was making about Mexican people having children and stuff. And so it's just like, I mean, that was like, almost 20 years ago. And it's like, I really feel there needs to be, and not to say the racism is not popular, and I think it's definitely making a comeback, but I feel like the same jokes I don't know, we should aim for a higher bar than what an uncle is telling us. I don't know. I think you should evolve. And I think the future is clean comedy. I've worked with people that are clean, and I feel like people don't want this anymore. I feel like that's the problem too. Is it's like, they want to move on. I just, I think this edgy thing is done. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're going to wade into those waters, there's definitely a way to do it. I mean, Bill Burr does stuff about race all the time, that's really, really edgy, funny, and insightful.
Woman, right there, he can talk about stuff more than somebody like Tony.
Right, but there's something odd about that requires that in order to be able to say the same point as a human being. I have to have, it's like, Howard with Robin Quivers, they always used to say that, having her as a sidekick allowed him to get away with things that he wouldn't. And I always I think that's cool and everything, but what we have to prove, I have a black sidekick, I have a black wife. Now can I get away? It's like, well, is the joke funny? If the joke is funny, and that drives me crazy, the whole thing. You can read someone's energy. This is the point about that. When you see Bill Burr on stage, the energy that he exudes, if you put those jokes in the mouth of another comedian, not because he has a black wife, but because you can feel that the energy that he's coming to that is different from some hacky guy who would just be spewing those things with an angry bent, whereas Bill is self-deprecating. Has a certain self-awareness about him, so that imbues the material with a lot more cachet and a lot more whimsy and a lot more wit and a positive energy than it would if it was coming out of the mouth of someone.
I think he's going to have a harder time, Bill Burr. I feel like the momentum of what he has done will shift. And I feel like people are going to be drawn more towards something that is a little less kind of engaging in the sense of, what he's doing. I feel like people are going to want something that's a little more Disney, a little more open. I really do. I feel like it's changing. And I feel like you could tell by his specials. I feel like his last special people weren't as excited about it as they were maybe the previous two or whatnot. You see the trend in the comic and how excited people are, because there was a time when Bill Burr was everything. And then I feel like sometimes, people kind of fall out of love. I mean, Dane Cook was the biggest comedian I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, I had never seen anybody do what Dane Cook. I saw him at the Garden. He got off stage. The house went black. They threw their bras and Red Sox hats and flowers on the stage. Lights go back up like he's U2 and comes back and just does an encore of 8 minutes, and they go bananas and they got their super fingers and they're going ridiculous. We're playing the same clubs. I'm in the same comedy clubs as he is.
Opening for you.
No, he's not opening for me, but I'm literally the joke is that I'm playing the same clubs. And it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, sometimes I'm not saying that's going to happen to Bill. I think Bill's going to go off and be an actor and do a lot of great things, but I think people fall out of love with you. And I think,
I think, and we may have a different perspective on this, because I think that there's always going to be a market for, and I don't mean just hack, because I don't think Bill's a hack and I think I always love edgy comics.
I'm not saying that at all. I think Bill's amazing.
I know you're not. I'm not saying that you are. I'm saying that, I think that there's always going to be that kind of thing in comedy where it's a bit transgressive, because things get too comfortable, and then you want somebody to go, okay, wait a minute, what aren't we talking about and why? And isn't that okay to talk about, right? Why should we be allowed to broach these things? I don't know. So
the bottom line is this is the bottom line is, we all have instincts as comedians, and his instinct was to cause controversy, and he did it. And I think I think he's going to excel. I think this guy is going to be huge, bigger than he was before. I mean, look at this Shane Gillis thing. It's like he said these awful things on a podcast, got fired from Saturday Night Live, and then a few years later did his own thing, started creating sketch. Basically, all he did was TikToks, and then he got asked back to host Saturday Night Live, and then got a full show, a sitcom series on Netflix. So it's like because the fan base is undeniable. And so this guy will probably thrive, but it's just, it's kind of, it's, I don't know. It's kind of unsettling, because it's like he basically did not do a good job. And like your job as a comedian is to win over the crowd. And if you're going to get up there, you as a comedian, when you call yourself a comedian, it's like you're representing all of us. And so
but you shouldn't hire a guy who does a specific thing.
How many gigs have you been hired that you shouldn't have been hired from? You know how many weddings I've done?
But I made the same point at those gigs. I said,
I guarantee you did a good job.
Okay, no, I'm saying that if you have a church social, you don't get Stanhope. You know what I mean?
But if the money's right, I get hired for churches and stuff, and I figure it out.
Oh,
and the thing is like he wasn't in that element of like, I should probably not do this. It was just like, I'm going to be a bad boy, and I'm
assuming that they wanted that. The whole idea that they did, I'm assuming that they were going for that demographic and they hired him specifically. In fact, there was a story that he was going to call her the C word, Kamala, and they said, yeah, cut that. Okay, but everything else got through, right? And they vetted the set, okay? They vetted that set, okay? That was on a teleprompter.
Imagine
that was on a teleprompter.
I've got to cut that C word thing. That's probably not good. That's probably not good. Probably not good. You want to cut that. I love being that producer. Yeah, we gotta cut that. We gotta cut the C word bit. Yeah, I mean, so
there's this weird, weird thing where
it's on them too. It's on them too.
It's all on them. I think for if you're running if you're on a presidential campaign, Tony got hired to do that job and basically was like, and here's my jokes. And they went, yeah, we like those. Okay,
well, I think he worked him out at the cellar the night before and everybody laughed. And so.
Okay. Well, if he did do that.
He did. That's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. He worked him out. He was running the set in New York and everybody loved it. And so. Yeah. But also I feel like my whole thing is like you do comedy in front of comedy crowds. And I feel like he did not do that. And, it's different. What you do in a stand-up room or anything, any place where people were there to see stand-up is just a different thing, a roast or stand-up comedy show.
Yeah. It's a totally different animal. It's not a roast. And so he did what he was hired to do. They vetted it. And to me, the funny part is I can't read politics anymore anyway, in terms of like what the hell's going on the planet. I don't know what's going on. So, but my initial reaction was, okay, this is going to hurt the campaign. It's not going to turn. It's not gonna help you reach out to undecided voters. They're not going to go, you know what? I was leaning towards Kamala, but I watched that Kill Tony guy, and that's the vibe I'm going for, and I'm going to go in and vote. I think
that's how I feel about Puerto Rico.
Yeah, exactly. It's about time somebody said it. That demographic was already locked in on the Trump side. So people. With
I actually disagree with you. I disagree with you 100% because I feel like it's called a podcast.
Bring it.
But I feel like the thing is, I think some of those young men who don't vote, might vote now because out of spite. I think it creates that kind of that young male energy that's the non-voter. I think maybe those guys will vote now because they want to like, screw you. We're behind Tony and Trump and we're going to, and this, I think that is definitely going to happen.
I have no doubts that there are probably people in that category, but to my reading of it, which is different than yours, is that for the amount of people that will do that, there's going to be more people who are like undecided who are going to go, that's not really, that was weird or creepy, or the Hispanic voters or something are going to go, that's not cool. And
maybe,
so that's,
maybe we don't know. I mean, I think
more of that. I'm sure there's some people who fit into the category you're talking about, but for me, that other group is larger. And so if you're in that camp, you would want Trump to put on the best, most, dare I say, inclusive show, in the sense of like getting more people who are on the fence to maybe go, okay, maybe Trump's not as crazy as the press is saying. No, look at this wonderful lineup. Maybe this is a normal lineup. And then you watch it and you're like, okay, this is a little, some of this is unhinged, and
I might vote for him though. I might vote for him. I don't know. Still figuring it out.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So all right. Well, we settled that. And
I may not.
right?
I might, and I might not. You know what I mean? You don't know who
You're
I
an
like.
undecided voter. So
I
you're an
might be. I
undecided.
might be. I might be blue. I might be red. You'll never know. Podcast.
You'll never know.
You'll never
I don't know where I'm going.
That's
at
not
this
what we're doing
point.
on this show. We're not trying to sway either way. We're trying to be very open.
No, we're talking openly so that you can see all of the dynamics.
But all of this from just basically a comic, just stirring the pot, which is hilarious. And this is very good for stand-up comedy because it just makes people think about comedy, and they're having discussions about it. They're trying to figure out how they feel about comedians, and should you be able to say everything you want to say as an artist, and should you be able to do things like that. And so I think it's good, and it makes people want to maybe go to a show and maybe see somebody go crazy, or the opposite, like I was saying, where they want something a little more family friendly because they're sick of all the edge. So it's one or the other. But I feel like in a way, it's just like when, there's controversy about music, like when they were trying to censor all the music in the 80s with Dee Snider and John Denver and all that stuff. It just made kids go out and buy more records, And so I feel like this is going to probably make people maybe respond more to stand up. So good for us.
Well, as I mentioned later, I think that the hack question, the idea of hack, which was something that comedians used to talk about in whispery tones.
And we're the only ones that know what a hack. The audience doesn't know.
No, I know.
That's why all these people are famous.
No, but my point is, in the comedy world, there was a sort of omerta. Is that what that word is? I don't even know. So there was a spoken code within our good comics would go, oh God, that guy's doing the douche commercials, disposable douche. Who saves him? He's doing that joke. Okay,
yeah, and they said it about Dane Cook, and he sold 4 nights at the Garden. So yeah, I mean, it's like people are always going to do that,
Right, and I'm not trashing Dane Cook. I'm saying that there was this thing where people did, and now there's another weird reaction to that, which is, oh, if somebody's offensive, that's all that he's pushing boundaries, or he's doing this, and it's like, well, okay, what boundaries are being pushed there? Is that really pushing boundaries? I guess the boundary against saying, then you could say that somebody on stage could be pushing the greatest boundary if they said the N-word a bunch of times.
No,
like
but
that would be the ultimate boundary pushing.
Bill Burr is the one that does it with craft. There's a couple of people that do it with craft, and he's one of those people that is able to pull that off. Jim Jeffries is another one. Doug Stanhope, obviously. There's certain people that can pull it off because they're good comics.
You and I.
I can pull it off. I mean, I've done some stuff, and I feel like it's just what it is. I mean, I basically did a slave joke in front of a Showtime Network audience and got an applause break. So I think that's craft. I think that it got an applause break. It also 3,000 people booed it, but I also did it on TV to spite that crowd that booed me, and it got an applause break. So I feel
wait a
like
minute. You can't introduce that. Wait, did we
told you this before.
On...
It's the joke about at least black people got to travel. We've talked about it.
Got it.
Yeah, that's. But it's. But yeah. So I'm just saying. You can do that if you're a good comic. And every single edgy comic started out a clean comic. They started out an improv. 6 minutes evening at the Improv comic. All of them. Stanhope. It's like Hicks. Carlin, it's Pryor.
Richard Pryor.
I said that. They all started. They all started. You just want to be the one to say Pryor, and I got to it first.
Yeah. I wanted to wait. Did you mention Pryor? Just before I said it. Because
there's just some exceptions, like Eddie Murphy is kind of a phenom. And so he was probably the one that was like 20 just out of the gate, amazing, and was able to do something different than most comics, even better than Pryor in the beginning is what I'm saying. Obviously he was influenced and everything by Pryor, but I feel like he's like, there's exceptions, but most people kind of started out as, a softer comic and ended up down that road. Definitely, Carlin is more of more of a kind of a study than Pryor, in my opinion, just because, it was just very suit and tie and very much,
very much so. Yeah.
Then he went this hippie. He went with the times, which is great. I think that's that's what I'm trying to say here, is like comics should go with the times.
Yeah.
And I think the times are a changing, and I don't think people are going to want, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure I'm wrong. And I don't expect to be completely right about this, but it's either going to, and how do you feel about this? Brian, how do you feel about this? Do you feel it's either going to go, people want, because this is the reason the Cumia Network was created. Do you feel people are going to, go, they want more edge, or are you going to think they're going to want less?
I think that the more that you shame a particular kind of thing, what it does is it goes underground and it seeks expression somewhere else. I think that people like Burr and transgressive comedy, the problem is that this is what I hate, is that you got guys like Stanhope, you got guys like Burr, and you got guys that are really good craftsmen who can attack an issue and really bring it to the forefront in a way that really is creative, like Bill Hicks and used to do. And so you have guys like that. And then when you have an environment in which that stuff is shamed, you're going to get on the outliers, where it's like people who are just going to be shocking and then say, that's edgy and you can't handle my edge and you can't handle these, I'm pushing boundaries. Okay. Which boundaries is like doing. Boundaries should be something that is, like, I've always said that, of course you have boundaries because it's guardrails. So that's the fun of it. How do I make the same point in a creative way, like you did with your joke that we just talked about slavery or something like that? That's the fun of it, that you can get something through that matrix where all the webbing is up there to block you and you can like slide that in. That's what art does. That's what Jonathan Swift did to talk, and Dickens and people who would bring illumination to an issue by talking about poverty or something in a way that got past the sense. Twilight Zone made all these points about, and Star Trek made all these points hidden in their sci-fi kind of format. It got when it's allowed them to tell stories and do things and get it by the censors and get it by people's natural barrier to go, no, you're making a point about race or something and we don't want that, or whatever it is. And they did it. So to me, transgressive humor, because Colin Quinn said, I didn't get into comedy to adhere to, a mainstream opinion, to reinforce orthodoxy and adhere to mainstream opinion. That's not what he did. That he wants to make people think, and that entails certain ideas and stuff like that maybe get you in trouble, as it did to Carlin, as it did to,
and that's I feel like that's how I started out of the gate, and then I feel like now I feel like I'm leaning towards being a clean comedian because the money's just so much better. I mean, it's thousands more. So absolutely. I'm like, all right, I'll be clean. Don't worry about it. But no, I'm about to do a clean tour with some other comedians. Like, I'm really going to lean into it because I feel like, it's like people get exhausted by edge sometimes.
Yeah, but Dustin, there's clean and then there's antiseptic.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I like the challenge of it. I like knowing that, like you got to be clean. What can you do in that set and be interesting? Yeah, you can do it. I mean, Seinfeld did it. Like, you can do it. Like, there's a lot of clean. My favorite, Stephen Wright is a clean comedian. I mean, you can. He's one of my favorites. I mean, it's like
Mitch Hedberg,
absolutely.
So you can. There's clean and then there's antiseptic. That when I hear the word clean comedy, I that's great. It doesn't have to be devoid of any edges whatsoever. It still can be palatable to a really, really large group of people that you can go up and do in front of families and everything else with a few, look at Rocky and Bullwinkle or some of the stuff that has jokes hidden in there that are for the adults and that the kids can watch it without even getting the jokes. That there's an art to that, like some of those Pixar movies.
There's also something that's disturbing about this whole thing with Tony and all that stuff. I feel like basically what you said, you said they vetted the set and then, they said it was appropriate and everything. And I feel like if it hadn't gotten a backlash, then they would not have come out at all about any of it. And so basically, it's funny because a lot of people are acting like the right is like the expression for the comedians. And like, this is, if you go with us, we're going to protect your freedom of speech and all that stuff. But the opposite happened in this situation. It's like this guy gets up there, he does this joke, offends everybody, on the internet. And then, so now then everybody that's part of, the organization is just like, we didn't think that was appropriate. And so they're backtracking on him.
Who's doing that?
The campaign, Trump, the entire campaign. They said they're disassociating.
I heard that
No, Newsweek, the Los Angeles Times, all of it. They're distancing themselves from him. They threw him under the bus. They threw him way under the bus.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go look at that because I heard that some members of the campaign obviously fed things to the press, basically saying because how can they defend it when they vetted it?
They didn't defend it. They didn't defend it. They threw him and did with the opposite of defending it. They said,
but how can they? That's what I'm saying. How can they blame him if they vetted the jokes? I don't. That's
well, nobody knows
understand.
the vetting part. Like, I don't think that's what's really getting in the news cycle. I think it's just basically they chose him and he did it, and it's like they're not. Nobody's going.
Well, I'm just wondering if that's Trump, the higher. Stephen Miller was offended. Yeah, really? Stephen Miller found the jokes offended? Did just Stephen have America for Americans?
Yeah.
America.
They threw him under the bus. They're basically like going, hey, man, we don't have anything to do with this. And, Trump says, I don't know a comedian who made Puerto Rico joke, but stop short of denouncing it. Yeah.
That's pretty much, I don't hear anything. Trump doesn't apologize. The last time, for anything. So he's not coming out, and I don't know what the spokespeople.
I think the saddest part.
I know Republican. Wait, I know the Republican, certain Republican Congress people who live in districts where there are a lot of Latino voters have said that was inappropriate. I know that, right? And certain party spokesmen have denounced it because they know that it's politically toxic, and they've done that. But I don't know what I don't know him. Someone put him up there.
Yeah, to me, that's the saddest part about this whole thing is that like this guy thinks he's like running tight with Trump, and then the fact that Trump's like, "Who are you?" Right. So that's the best part. Right. It's like, this is my boy. He's laying on the sword for Trump, and then the fact that he's just like, "Who are you? Are you on the show?" Who booked you? Who booked you on this? Did someone book you? Who booked you? Can I see the email? That's basically what it is.
Who are you again? Who are you? He'll sell out. He'll sell out the Garden tomorrow. Like it's the news, and people will go, "Yeah, we got to go because we're going to stick it to this group." It's like, all right, whatever. Good for him. It's the campaign bears all the responsibility for that. You don't. To me. He went up and did what you see at the roast every time, and to me, it's like you put him up there, and now you're throwing him under the bus when you vetted the jokes. I thought the whole point was that's why you booked him because he appeals to that demographic. He's gonna tweak the libs, which is such a huge part of that whole ideology.
All he had to do was say, "Yeah, but the women are hot." All he had to do was that's the thing with stand-up comedy. It's like all you have to do is add. Like my whole thing on race, I make fun of being from Texas. I make fun of the fact that I'm native, whatever. I make sure I turn on myself, or I compliment, and I do the whole thing. Like I do this thing on race where I say, without black people, there's no more sports, there's no more music, basically promoting and saying they're good. Like all he had to do was say, "Yeah, but the women are hot." Anything, right. Even that is like misogynistic or whatever, but it's a compliment. It's something. Rice and beans are amazing, whatever, anything. But it's the fact that he just dropped this thing, garbage, and then just left it there. And that's that to me, that's the amateur move. Is he felt the energy, which was split. I listened to it. It's a split energy. We all have that in crowds, and it's a split. You hear some gasping, you hear some, and he fought, and his save line was, "Okay, folks, we're getting there." That's all he says. Well, that's his save line is, "Oh, we're getting there." Instead, he could have made a way funnier save line. He's like, it's just like, you guys made a mistake booking me. Anything. There's so many things he could have done to kind of like redeem the situation. And that's the amateur move, is that he just kind of let this moment stay there. And then he didn't, talk about a floating garbage island. It was him after the joke didn't work. It's like, there's so many ways to save it. So many ways.
I know.
And that's the amateur move.
And I think if he had trashed the kids, I think that to see what the crowd's reaction would be if he had said something about Eric and Donald Jr.
He's not going to do that. He's not going to do that.
Why?
He's not going to do that. He's not going to do that. That's the move if you're like trying to rock and roll the situation, but he's not. He's a strong supporter. So he doesn't want to sway anybody into that. And so that, it's like if Stanhope would have done that. But it's like, this guy's because Stanhope's in the middle. This guy's all the way right. So he wants to, he doesn't want to play with it. That's more important to him.
That's my point. That would have helped the right if he had done that, if he had given him more credibility to do that, because the whole argument is, I trash everybody. Well, then do that. Trash everybody. Yeah. If that's what you do and that's your bragging point and that's your brand, then do it.
I think he would go hunting with Eric and whoever is his name in a heartbeat. Like, I think he loves all of it. So I think you have to have a little bit of making fun of it, and and I don't think he has that. I think he's just, it's right all the way. My comedy is right. Here we go. I'm make fun of every race. That's what I think. I agree with you 100%. Right. I think but that's the pro in you. That's the craftsman in you. It's like, that's not in this guy. This guy has one lane. The lane is Asians talk like this. Black people have a lot of kids and can't get work. Right. It's all the same kind of stuff that's been happening since 25 years ago on stage. At every VFW across America, there's some guy doing it, and it's what it is. It's all, there's a black version and the white version. It's of just this kind of hack of what people are, and they've been doing it for years. White people talk like this, and black people do this, and Asian people can't drive, and
which is hack, which is my, but it's
like, you have to pivot. And he didn't pivot. He just stayed in the lane because he's probably terrified. He thought they were going to like really just carry him out of there with any sort of race joke. And then
they might have
realized, and a lot of those people aren't racist. A lot of them aren't. A lot of them are just like family people that just want to stay with the Christian values, and they're people that just want to like not have their businesses taxed and all that. There's all those people, and then those people aren't. Well, let me hear it. Those people aren't going to laugh at a Puerto Rican garbage joke. Because they're just there because they believe a baby is a baby and all that stuff they believe. And that's why they're there. And so that's not going to make them laugh. He didn't read the room, and he thought everybody was just going to be on board. And that's him. Like, he stereotyped the Republican Party by doing jokes like that and not knowing that and understanding that it's a broader audience. And that's how he failed, is he just thought one lane for one joke. It's like seeing a whole group of black people and just doing black jokes, and not doing anything else except just black jokes for the black people. That's what he tried. And then it's like, and then there's other people in there, that aren't black people. And so you're just basically just doing one side. He didn't read the whole room. But if the joke had landed, then we would be having this conversation. It would be a different conversation about it. And so the fact that it didn't land, it got gasps. It was silent. I heard it. It's pretty silent. I don't know if you've watched it. And so if it had crushed, like applause breaks and laughter and craziness, and I think a more famous comedian could have pulled that off. It's like a lot of those people did not know who he was. And
you mean the same
Joe
joke?
Rogan could have pulled it off.
Same joke?
Same joke. It's fame. fame helps a joke. I mean, Kinnison got away with so much because of how famous he was at a certain point, and everybody else. I mean, it's like the more famous Chappelle couldn't do half of that. When he being famous helps you. You're able to get away with stuff. And so he wasn't able to get away with it. And then, and like I said, it's like the fact that it didn't work, he should have pivoted, but whatever. It's a weird show. Whatever. We tried not to be political, and here we are. It's like
I expected us to do like 10.
Just so you know, folks, we had a whole meeting about not being political, and the entire show was about a comedian that was political, and we couldn't stop it.
No, I thought
but it's part of the vein. It's the vein. It's the vein of this, this craft. Yeah. You never know. It's going to come up.
Did you watch my video?
No. I've been dealing with my mother. I'm trying to get my ailing mother into a better situation. So I'm sorry I didn't deal with her. But
we didn't get to write any jokes here. We didn't get to
No, but I did think about how cruel life is. It's just like you start out with all this energy in life, and then just you go into these places and there's all these banged up people, and it's like it's just really sad what happens. I don't know if there's no joke there, but it's it's just so sad.
Well, there's definitely a joke there. I just don't think we got it.
Hopefully.
There's something there.
I mean, no, but it's like you're trying to drive a car with like no wheels, and you're just, it's just horrible. Like towards the end there, you're like, oh man, it's just like this dying young thing is pretty underrated.
How old is your mom? Wait.
She'll be 80. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll have to find an angle on this. I don't know. Are we out of time? Are we introducing?
No, we don't have to be out of time. I think the whole thing is just like, it's just a cruel joke. I think life is a cruel joke. It's like you start out with all this hope, and then you become like a teenager, and then you're experiencing and tasting and enjoying this thing called life, and then you have this journey, you're young and spry, and you're 20, and then you're 30, and then you're 40, and then the wheels just pop off, and there's no bumper, and there's no windshield, and you're just driving into the wall, and it's like you got a walker and a thing. You were a rock star, man. And then you're just like can barely get to the store, and then you got to buy a diaper and you pee on yourself. I used to pee on myself. That's because I was 20 and I drank a lot, not because life dealt this thing to me. And so I just think this idea of, well, you never partied like me, so you don't understand. No, Adam knows what I'm talking about. But
I know. Oh, wait a second. How did I become the Mormon here? Right? You're the Mormon.
I mean, even an ex-Mormon partied more than you, Brian.
Exactly. No, but you're taking us down this your wheels pop off and you're getting elderly and everything goes down. Who would have thought that the Trump rally would have been the hype, the more joyous aspect of this show, right? Listen to more celebratory.
But isn't comedy is what you're feeling? I'm just saying this is what I'm feeling because I'm here with my mother. I'm here with these old people, so it's like I'm just seeing it, and you just try to, you try not to think about it, but it's like where we're all headed, and it's just
there's something funny about that being a museum of your future.
Oh, that's
some kind
funny.
Some kind of like or whatever, some kind of what's the Dickens thing, the Christmas Carol. You're going it's like an elderly Christmas Carol where you go, this is but just the future. The ghost of Christmas future, right? Like where it's just that's it.
The past is gone. It's all about now.
You don't get to revel. Yeah. You don't get to revel in anything good, not the present. It's just your empty future. And you go, hey, one ghost shows up. The other ones are stuck in traffic. And two ghosts are stuck in traffic. The one ghost is just the one that's going to show you the shit show that your life becomes in the future. And you're like, hey, is there any other? What happened to the other ghost about the? You know what I mean? Is there an alternate? Right? And the other ghost, no. I just got a text from him. He's not showing up, right? There's no, well, can I turn this around? Can I wake from this dream? No, this is it. It's etched in stone. You're done here, buddy, right? Like, that would be really funny. Like, the one ghost. It's only one ghost.
And it's the worst ghost ever. Yeah, but it's like, and I think one thing that's funny, too, is like, there's so much, kind of like, especially at our age, like 40 plus people, I feel like it's all like drink green juice and, get off caffeine and, and don't eat red meat and, and and do this and, drink water and hydrate and like take your turmeric and take it, it's just this constant.
After all the drugs you did in your sordid past. You're trying to make penance now. You're trying to make up for it with
not
celery.
Just me, everybody.
I know that. My point,
healthiest person on the planet.
I'm not saying you. I'm saying if you lived a tough life, I don't know if you can take that back by drinking celery juice. Like I'm doing more juicing now. That should eliminate all the ayahuasca and all the
cocaine I did in '88.
The coke I snorted in the '90s. All I have to do is make a smoothie, and I'm good.
That's not bad.
Wait a minute, no.
Yeah.
You're not gonna. You can't. No backsies. You don't get backsies. Okay. If you were taking, if you were taking DMT back in the freaking '80s, you ain't gonna wash it away with some with
fish oil.
With fish oil, with fish oil and some kale and a kale smoothie.
Yeah, okay? Fish oil and kale is not going to make up for that heroin you did for 6 years. Yeah,
K-sound. Yeah, a kale smoothie ain't going to make up for the '60s. You know what I mean? Like you did in the '60s. Okay, I love the baby boomers are trying to make penance for all that they did at the freaking. I dropped acid at Woodstock 3 times, and now I'm just gonna, I'm gonna drink we already covered it. Kale smoothie. We got celery juice is funny without any case sound.
Well, that's very funny, and then it's like. And then it's just like the idea of like, even if you're not trying to make up, even if you've even like, because a lot of people like maybe if you've lived a healthy life, but it's like, but even it's the constant panic of basically just, like I'll see a guy, like I don't know if you see this, like when you see an old guy, like a really senior guy, and then like you'll see one like hunched over. It's every time I see one, I just go, oh man, I gotta get to yoga. Like,
yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm always just like, okay, man, I got to stretch back. I got to like hold my back because I have bad posture. So I'm just like, I got to get this, I got to get to yoga because I don't want to be a little, you want, because there's time you'll see that 80-year-old guy that like ran the marathon. Like you just want to be that guy,
Yeah. That's really funny. Like every time the biggest guys on the Amazon's most, trafficked purchases of yoga mats take place after that. Like every guy's buying a yoga mat. Suddenly it's an 80, it's a 60, no, it's not 80, but it's like 50-something-year-old guy who just passed a hunchback on Fifth Avenue. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and then
every time, they always have a
yoga mat. Yeah. Buy me a yoga mat and a kale smoothie. Okay, that's not going to help. You're done, babe. Gravity takes us all.
Yeah, it's all about posture.
But that's funny. Remember how people say, "What's your height?" And to think that your height actually changes. That's kind of depressing. You know what I mean? Like you start losing vertebrae, and you're 6'2" when you're in your 30s, and then by then you're 5'4". And half of it is just a scoliosis taking you down.
So bad. Yeah, it's just it's just like just a lot.
Let's go back to the Trump roast, right? Because this is
we got a bit. We got a bit.
I'm joking.
It's your turn. Yes. Yeah, we'll go. I'm sure you want to do that white people race joke you were working on. Let's roll the tape.
I got 2 bits here. Okay,
do one. We got time for one. What do you got?
Oh boy, how do I present this? So I'm not simple.
Oh boy, I like that. I love that phrase. Oh boy.
Oh boy. All right, here's a bit.
Always a good sign.
Here's a bit. No, here's a bit that I love, and it actually it'll either crush or get barely anything depending on how I introduce it. And comics like it, and it's one of these things where
That's most of my jokes. I get this.
Yeah. But maybe I should do the race thing because I can't do that.
Do this.
No, I'll do the other one.
We've done the race thing like 4 times. Let's do this
a million times. No. The bit. It's the bit about and you know the importance of frame and how you're doing the bit. But basically, it's a reporter. It's a guy in the news, and I love news pieces, and it's very different from my CNN guy piece, which was one of my killer closers for a long time. But there's a bit about a guy reporting on a guy bombing at a comedy club. Okay, and I treat it like it's an actual bombing or a horror story. And the whole bit is great. The chunk itself, but how I justify getting into it is a complete mess. Because basically the bit itself is I think it's how do I get into it now? It's like I've had bad shows, but I've never had one so bad that it made the evening news, right? Like that would have to be a really bad show. But I can't remember the exact verbiage, but it gets into it. The ramping into it is the problem. It's like.
Are you kidding me? You're kidding me, right?
What do you mean?
This Tony Hinchcliffe just bombed and made the headline news.
Oh, no. Oh, wait a second. Are you kidding me? Wait a minute. Kismet. Close the barn door. Wait a minute. Okay.
That's exactly what just happened.
Okay. You know what? I'm almost such embarrassed that I didn't even see that. I'm almost embarrassed because I've been doing this bit for 6 years, okay? And that that you've not done well when your set makes the evening news, Like now, I don't know if this bit is going to graft onto that as effectively as it sounds.
To a little bit. You can get out of it quickly, but it has to be you have to touch on it because if you don't, people are going to be thinking it.
But see now that you mention it, it's not about what you think it's about because the bit it imitates the actual thing that happens when you turn on the news and it's a plane crash. The bit is really about like
sure. I know what the bit. I know how you approach it, but I feel
it's
like
horror at a low. Yeah, it's basically. I
just feel it needs to be maybe something at the end. Maybe it's you reference it at the end. Maybe instead of the beginning. I don't know
what.
Maybe you reference it at the end instead of the beginning. I don't know if that's a way to do it, like the Tony thing. Like at the end, you reference it.
I get it.
Instead of like if you don't want to like jump off of it, but
right.
But yeah, bombing. I think. But I feel like it's just so connected.
I know. My cousin Aaron is an airline pilot, and if he screws up at work, one mistake. And it's everyone. He's on airline pilot. Think about the pressure in that job, the stakes. People think my job is stressful. Aaron is an airline pilot. One mistake, everyone dies, and it's all over the news. Think how badly I would have to mess up this show to even approach that level of human tragedy. I've had bad shows, but I've never had one so bad that people turn on the news and saw horror at a local comedy club, where onlookers say that an unfunny comedian suddenly took the stage, leaving horrified audience members searching for answers. Okay. And then we have a guy go, yeah, I was standing in the back by the bathroom and usually the comedians here pretty good, but this guy went on and right away I knew something was wrong. Okay. I mean, this guy didn't even look funny. Okay. So it's all a character piece. Some are blaming management for their slow response to the tragedy. They told us we could not leave until we had paid our checks. Everyone was screaming. My wife was crying, let us out. This guy is not funny. Okay, so you get the whole, right. The whole thing is about a news report of a crash or a disaster. And so that works. But the whole verbiage at the beginning, my cousin Aaron's an airline pilot. He makes one mistake at work, everybody dies, and it's all over the news. Think how badly I would have to mess up this show. It's so much setup to get to the bit that it drives me insane. So that's the problem with the bit. We don't have to do it tonight on this particular show. We can bring this back next time. I know we're out of time. Or maybe we're not. And why am I doing a Billy Burr, sort of pseudo Billy Burr impersonation? Right.
No, I think it's like I like it when there's two things that you do in your stand-up that I think are good. When you're great, I feel you do this. And then when you're walking through a set because you don't like the crowd, then you're another comic, like we all are. But the Brian that I like is a Brian that is like kind of almost like it's conversational about like what's happening and the idea of like bombing on stage or, like I just saw that thing that happened at the rally and that, this poor guy, whatever. You imagine if they actually covered it in a comedy club like that, even if you said it that loose and quick, I think it's like easy get to say something. Something. You don't have to go into the whole thing about Trump. You don't have to go in the whole thing about even the guy's name.
No, I know.
It's just something like, I know that's happening. You guys might have saw this thing that's happening. The guy was at a political rally and he said the thing. Can you imagine if they cover it and it was on the news? Can you imagine if like this happened in a comedy club? Can you imagine what would that be like?
But
I don't know if that's a better thing, but
I know. And see, that's where frame comes in stand up, that no one talks about frame. And that is a totally different frame of the joke, because then it doesn't justify the rhythms, cadence, and verbiage that a person uses when they're covering a plane crash.
No. You're going to do all that. You're going to do all that. You're just going to basically and I think you could say, what's the big deal if a comedian makes a mistake on stage? What's a big deal is if an airline pilot makes a mistake. That's a big deal. And then
that's interesting. That's a really short version. And a comedian, but that's interesting. Okay, see, I like that. See, that's a simple. The problem with the bit is all of that verbiage to get into it. It's just my cousin Aaron. You
don't need a cousin or any of that. You just be like, you're just basically saying, Chris Rock does something about the airline pilot, but we want to stay away from like his version of like what that is. But I think it's more of the setup. So I don't think it's his joke. But what you just said rings like clicks for me, and like, what the hell did you just say? Whatever you said. No, it's just like it's just people made a big deal about a comedian not doing well on stage, but if a comedian makes a mistake, not a big deal. But if like, let's say a pilot makes a mistake or a doctor or whatever, then it's a big deal. Can you imagine if they covered that like a news story of a comic bombing and then you just get into it,
Yeah, an airline pilot screws up, everyone dies. An airline pilot, that's a big deal. One mistake, everyone dies. Think how badly I would have to. See, it's still. I gotta work on that, because that won't. There's
you
so
like to
much.
talk. You like to add. You're verbal guy, so you like to add, and it's and 99% of the time it's a beautiful thing. But once in a while, especially like a shorter set, you need to like cut away from it, and it's okay.
No, I know.
You need to find.
I don't do the bit. I don't do the bit. I don't do the bit that often because of that. When I do it, it usually kills, but it's usually when I built enough goodwill that I can get a little rambly with it.
I think you need a hybrid version of all your jokes. I have hybrid versions. I have, I have longer versions. I have a headline versions, and I have a hybrid, quick, short. Boom, get in, get out. So but that's as simple as that. A comedian messes up on stage, no big deal. Now, if a pilot messes up, that's a pretty big deal. You don't even have to say people dying. People know what that is, and then you just go into the joke. It's like you don't even have to say the word "people." People know what that means. It's like you just get right to it.
That's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
I mean, I've had a bad shot.
You're in it.
But then you have to say it makes the evening news. I've never had something that makes the evening news because I have to set up me transforming into a news reporter.
I see. Okay, because the dying is what makes it. Okay, I got you.
Yes. Horror at a local comedy club. I've never had a show so bad that people turned on the news and saw horror at a local comedy club, because that initial piece of material.
Unless you were doing a political rally, maybe inject it there.
Yes, I will too. Unless you're,
maybe inject it there. You might get an applause break there.
Unless you're doing it at a political. Say that again.
Unless you're doing it, unless you're bombing at a political rally, you might get an applause break there.
Well, okay. I think we might be onto something with the rally thing and getting
just say rally. Don't say Trump.
Making a news. Yeah. Of course, a political rally or something about getting on the evening news with a bad set. It has to have the framework of a disaster.
I understand the framework. I understand.
That's why cousin Aaron, airline pilot.
I get all that.
Equivalent,
But there's a reason why you don't. There's something that's you're hesitant about it because you feel like it is a lot of verbiage.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, at least for now, Like I would try it. I bet if you did it tonight with a little bit of reference to, unless you do it at a political rally, it's like if you just did that just to test it, I bet it would get some sort of crazy response this week. You probably won't be able to do it next week or whenever this dies out because everything dies out.
Now that you brought it up, I mean, I feel like, okay, if I can just find a short way to connect those ideas of
I think you
rally,
have to.
bombing, plane crash.
Because they're going to think if you don't.
And news report of a plane crash. That's hard.
Because
but you can do it.
But that's how they make this thing. Oh my gosh. You know, you're looking on TikTok. Tony Hooker, can you believe what he said about Puerto Rico? Oh my gosh. That's what it's coming off as. You know, I'm getting more of that on my phone than real tragedies.
Okay. Well, that's a different joke. See, that's clever. That's a different joke. That's a great idea to say, why am I seeing this? It's not like a plane crashed, okay? Like you know what I mean? Like it's not like a plane crash. I've never seen, they're treating it like a plane crash, you know? And I've had bad sets, but I've never had one so maybe horror at a local comedy club. That's close.
Boom. That might work.
Close.
It'll work. You may not love it right away, but it'll work.
Yeah. All right, that's good. That's good, brother. We circled back.
Good,
we even found, that's really weird that we did the whole political thing, right, rally thing, and then we were like, I got a bit, I can't come on and answer that. Well, why do you talk about the rally thing? It's like, wait a minute, what? I didn't even think. That's how dumb that my brain is. Like, I'm like, oh, hilarious. That's sitting right there, Brian. It's a raw piece of freaking kiwi sitting there, and you didn't pick it up, you idiot. You know.
All right, Chasing Comedy. Right. I'm Dustin Chafin.
I'm Brian Scott McFadden.
Thanks for watching, listening. It's been a weird, fun show. Yay.
Well, folks, that's our show. It's time for us to go. Make sure to follow us, give us a like, drop us a comment, and always subscribe. We're Chasing Comedy on all the socials. We hope you had a gas, had some laughs, and maybe you learned something too. Until next time, we're Brian and Dustin, and we're Chasing Comedy.